So round 18, the Friday games, the two home teams have had victories. The Crusaders over the Highlanders, 45 points to 22, and the Reds over the Rebels, 37-23. Good attendance for this first game, partly probably because it was a Southern derby between the two Southern teams from New Zealand, and partly because it was White Crockett's 200th Super Rugby game, which is a heck of an achievement. Either way, well attended, which looked good on camera. Game was probably a bit more even than what that scoreline would suggest. I mean, you got tries for the Crusaders, 2 to Bridge, Havili, Mo'unga and Barrett getting tries, 3 to the Highlanders, Lomax, Smith and Naholo. At halftime, the score was 25-17, so the Highlanders were really in it, and there was one last try there through Scott Barrett, which was right before halftime. I mean, it was in about 41 minutes on the clock, so the Highlanders, whilst having less ball, were really able to do some good stuff with it. I mean, Ben Smith's try was just a bit of magic on the counter-attack, and really kind of showing that whilst the Crusaders are going to be a very, very hard team to beat, they've still got weaknesses, I guess, if you want to call it that. I'm mainly speaking about their tackling percentage. It was 71 for this game, which is low. Most teams are in the 80s, mid-80s is okay, high 80s is good, and then some teams even get into the 90s is really fantastic. 71 for the Crusaders is poor, but I mean, they had most of the ball, so every time they miss a tackle, because they had to make fewer tackles, every time they do miss a tackle, their percentage is affected more than, say, the Highlanders, who had to make a lot more tackles. So it's just one of those statistics that's a bit interesting. The fact that the Highlanders were able to score 17 points with only about 40-odd% of the ball in territory, was speaking volumes for the work that they were doing. But I mean, the Crusaders' juggernaut in that second half just kept rolling on. I mean, there was a little bit of tit for tat because Mo'unga got a try and then Naholo got a try. It was 32-22. But then it was just all Crusaders, 2 penalties and another try to George Bridge. Just too much, and 45-22 is a pretty comfortable scoreline in the end. If Mo'unga keeps playing half as well as he did last night, the Crusaders are going to be very, very difficult to beat come the finals time. If you're putting money on it, I don't see why you'd be putting money on anyone else other than the Crusaders. I don't know what they're paying, but it's not going to be much because they are just looking really, really good. I mean, even White Crockett, the old man, who was only on the bench, had to come on after about 5 minutes and still played a really solid shift. So, yeah, pretty tough stuff. Kieran Reid's back. He played all right for 40-odd minutes. So, yeah, it doesn't get any easier to go to Christchurch. For the Highlanders, though, I mean, Ben Smith, like I said, was really good. Liam Squire was really big on defence, so there were some bright spots for them. It's just winning away from home in the finals is going to be something they're going to have to do. They're going to have to figure it out pretty quickly because they've got one more game at home and then an away trip somewhere. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge wherever they go. But they pretty much know the deal now, so they need to be doing whatever it is they do in that coaching sessions or on the training field, tactically, whatever it is, to try and figure it out because it's going to become a do or die thing in a couple of weeks. So yeah, 45-22, pretty comfortable in the end. The next one, Reds 37, Rebels 23. Attendance not that great for this one, but I mean, to be expected. The Reds are out of it, and it's their last home game of the season after a pretty poor run. I mean, likewise, the Blues' attendance in their last home game of the season was poor because the team's not been putting in the results, nothing to play for. So, yeah, good on the fans who did show up. Your team gave you a victory, if nothing else. It was a bit of tit for tat early, a couple of early penalties, but then the Reds scrum just really started to put the wood on the Rebels. They ended up getting a penalty try. Later, a try to Dalguna was also from scrum pressure. Rodder got one from a charge down, and Lance got one right towards the end. For the Rebels, Cottrell got a kind of controversial one. After the Reds got their penalty try, the Rebels took a quick kickoff because there's no conversion needed with the penalty try, so the Rebels just ran back and took it quickly. I'm not sure what the rules are. I had a very quick look, but couldn't find a clear answer. So if anyone knows, let me know. in there. Maddox put a bit of gas on. So the Rebels were actually in the lead at one point, 17 points to 10 just after half an hour. But that scrum pressure got a bit too much. The Rebels ended up getting a yellow card due to all the scrum penalties. Faulkner got yellow carded. But during that yellow card period, the Rebels did what a finals team needed to do, and they kept the scoreboard ticking over on their end and limited the Reds scoring. So the yellow card period was 7-6 to the Reds. So only 1 point difference with the extra man. It was the next yellow card period that really cost the Rebels because they had the man advantage. When the Reds got a man in the bin, no points. Multiple chances, no points. That's not what a finals team needs to do. So, I mean, yeah, it's points dropped for the Rebels. Now they've put their fate into the hands of the other teams chasing them. The Sharks and the Brumbies would be kind of, rubbing their hands together with glee at this result. I mean, the Rebels have got the Highlanders away next week. So this was the game to get the result and hope for some points next week, not the other way around. So yeah, the Reds are going to win games when they get scrum dominance. It's when they don't have scrum dominance that they struggle. So we'll see if they can kind of work on other aspects of their game. I'm still not convinced by Sarovi and Stewart. I know they've only played a handful of games together, but that needs to improve. Perhaps some time in the NRC for both these guys will develop their games because they're both still pretty young. Their line-out definitely needs work. As good as their scrum is, their line-out is still pretty poor. I thought for the Rebels, Hodge and Ruru definitely outplayed Sarovi and Stewart. So that's kind of a bonus, but that 10-minute period where they had the extra man, multiple guys guilty of mistakes during that period because it was just Rebels errors that were costing them. I mean, the Reds had some pretty good scramble as well, but the Rebels had their chances and did not take them. So they've got to hope that the Brumbies lose. Otherwise, they've got to win next week in Dunedin, which is a very difficult prospect. So yeah, it's a tough run for the Rebels. I mean, I want them to make the playoffs just because they haven't done it before, but they've just made it a whole lot harder for themselves. So we'll see how it goes. Good on the Reds for getting a win. You're in a similar position to my team, the Blues. You're building, the Reds are properly building. The Blues are always building. There's something to look forward to for next year with a bit of good news, I suppose. Crusaders are just looking that good. What did you guys think of the games? Did you watch them? And key moments, key performers, what do you think? Let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.